the time is now. Wake up, Africa, the time is now. Masithanganeni, we got to live together. Masithanganeni, we got to live together.
Wow, welcome to the African Institute of Leadership and Governance. I hope that you are doing well wherever you are, and you are catching me loud and clear wherever you are. This is your friend and brother Emmanuel Nkoma coming to you all the way from South Africa this morning. I've got a great discussion that I want us to do, and this is not other than creating the Africa we want. I am not going to waste much of your time, but on this very subject, I would want us to look at a number of issues quickly without further ado. This is not a session like the usual classes that I do, but rather this is just to inspire you and motivate you as an African, and you beginning to look at what exactly that we can do together at the continent. And also I want us to look at why are we where we are as a continent. There are some conversations that we need to begin to have, strong conversations which we need to begin to have as the people, as a people. We need to start having conversations to ourselves, and some of these conversations, friends, they will help us to improve the welfare which we are at. And when I speak about the Africa we want today, it's something that I want to just bring an inspiration to most of you out there who are following me, and those of you who have followed us, that we at the African Institute of Leadership and Governance desires to see a better continent, desires to see an Africa that is progressive. We desire to see an Africa that is going forward. And we also desire to see an Africa that is united. So this morning or this afternoon, regardless of the time, borrow me your 5-10 minutes that I want to share the Africa we want. And this is very important for us to look at. What kind of an Africa are we talking about? And when we say the Africa we want, I want us to begin to look at ourselves as the African people, beginning to look at ourselves as the people of color, beginning to look at ourselves as a people that are united. Because if we don't deal with these things of our own continent, our own problems, guess what? I've always said that imperialists will come and they will deal with things on our behalf. And once they deal with things on our behalf, what happens is that the Africa we want cannot be attained. There are two Africas that I've always talked about. There is the Africa we want, which is in our mind, the desires of the people, the aspirations of the people, the aspirations of the African people. And there is also the Africa that is at the present moment, what the African people are seeing and what the people of color are going through right now in the continent of Africa. I want you to understand something quickly as I discuss on the Africa we want, the Africa we want. The first thing that I want to state, there is an Africa that the AU paints a picture to us every year. There is an Africa which the African Union paints a picture for us every year. And there is also an African Union which a black child somewhere there in Soshanguve, a black child somewhere there in KwaZulu-Natal, a black child somewhere there in Juba in South Sudan, a black African somewhere there in Palapie in Botswana, a black African somewhere there in Kivu in the Congo DRC, a black Africa, an African somewhere in Oshodi of Lagos, Nigeria, a black African somewhere crying out in Tete, a black African crying out somewhere there in Central African Republic, a black African crying out there in Monrovia, a black African crying out there saying, we need this type of an Africa. How then are we going to deal with the Africa we want? How can we attain that African dream, that in August 1970, we see Patrice Lumumba, Kwame Nkrumah, and the people getting together, Patrice Lumumba, Kwame Nkrumah, they got together and they said, let us build one Africa that shall have one currency, one Africa that shall identify itself as a people, one Africa that shall identify itself with one economy. If we have to attain that Africa, there are things that we need to begin to discuss. There are things we need to begin to deal with. And this morning, I came to inspire you that the Africa we want is the Africa which our forefathers dreamt of. Our forefathers shed their blood. Our forefathers, I remember Solomon Masangu said that my blood will alter the democracy of South Africa. And when these people are killed, their blood surely waters the democracy of South Africa. But is this the South Africa that Solomon Masangu died for? Is this the South Africa that Steve Van Tubiko died for? Is this the South Africa that Robert Sobukwe dreamed of? Is this the South Africa that Lydian Ngoyi fought for? When we speak about the South Africa we want, we need to look at what inspired our forefathers. When we get to Maputo and we are now in Mozambique, is this the South Africa? Is this the Africa, the Mozambique that Samora Machel died for? Is this the Africa that we can talk about? Is this the things that our leaders wanted to see, what we are seeing today? The Africa we have today is filled with corruption. The Africa we have today is filled with malpractices. The leaders we have today, their greatest motivation is their stomach. The African leaders we had yesterday, what pushed them into governance was to see to it that the African people are liberated from the colonial masters. But what motivates our African leaders today is to see to it that their families are liberated. Their children goes to better schools. Their wives and girlfriends go to Dubai for shopping. That is the African leaders we have today. But is this the Africa we want today? We have seen the Africa that our leaders, when they get into office, the first thing they go to purchase is a gun. Why should our African leaders, the first thing they desire to purchase is a gun when they get into power? Yet, the Africa we dreamed is a free Africa. Now, if Africa is free, why our leaders are so insecure? Ladies and gentlemen, the Africa we want is that Africa that will give an opportunity to every child in the slums of Soweto. The African that we want is that Africa that will give an opportunity to an African girl child. Haven't you noticed that history, African history, does not include the women that fought for the liberation of our countries? African history does not talk about the women that stood strong to make sure that the men, the gallant men that fought were in good shape and they were able to eat, they were able to stand. And so we salute women like Mama Sisulu, Albertina Sisulu, who took the ANC in the 1962 and began to cook for them. We salute our women, the mothers of Africa, who are less known. The mothers of Africa like Mama Betty Kaunda, who sat at home and she cooked for Kenneth Kaunda when they would go out there and have the frontline state meetings. And Kenneth Kaunda will bring all his friends from different countries and different nations, and they will sit. And in those years, Mama Betty Kaunda would entertain them. Listen to me, guys. Africa that we want today is a united Africa. Let us not forget the dreams of our forefathers of creating an Africa that is economically free. I have always said this, and let me reiterate by calling and saying, listen to me, ladies and gentlemen. Political freedom without economic freedom is worse than colonialism. We have attained political freedom. We have attained political freedom where our leaders have allowed us to vote. But what about after we finish voting? Are we able to put bread and butter on the table? Remember, guys, political freedom is without economic freedom is worse than colonialism. So we need to make sure that if we have to create the Africa we want, men and women must begin to participate. Men and women must begin to be involved. Men and women must begin to get out and say, how can we make this great continent great? Remember, in our problem justification and identification, we have seen that all solutions of our continent are really with us in our continent. I came just to motivate you this morning, not necessarily a class today, but I came to speak to you and say, wake up, Africa, unite. Aswambanen, wake up, Africa. Let's hold each other's hands. We are a great giant. Wake up, Africa. Let us not discriminate one another. Whether you come from Somalia, you come from Angola, you come from Maputo, you come from Zimbabwe, you come from Nigeria. Let us work together. There is power in unity. There is power in numbers. Africa must prosper. We must make sure that this continent called Africa gets to its destiny. When the African people prospers, Africa shall prosper. Ladies and gentlemen, I call upon every good African of goodwill to join hands with men and women with dreams and desires to see an Africa that is prosperous and united. Thank you very much for coming on tonight and this morning. I just came to inspire you just to say, Africa will prosper. Africa is great. Africa is the best land. Africa is beautiful. Africa is sweet. So let us embrace it upon our hearts as the people of Africa. Much more, asibambaneni. Let's hold each other's hands. Let us not fight one another. Let us not kill one another. We are one Africa.